Welcome to Growthcast, insights for B2B leaders, where we uncover strategies, stories, and solutions driving growth for B2B leaders. I'm your host, Alex. In each episode, we'll dive deep with industry experts looking to grow in today's competitive landscape. So let's get started. Today, we have Anthony. Nice to have you today. How are you?
I'm doing great, Alex. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. Nice to be here.
Really pleasure to have you on here as well. Do you mind giving the audience a brief introduction around yourself, how you got to today?
Yeah, of course, of course. So, as you can see, my name is Anthony Syams. I'm the founder and CEO of COTIT. So we found this company now for 7 years. I will explain later what we all do and stuff. But a little bit about my background. I've actually not necessarily come from the supply chain, although I'm working in that space. I actually started my career in the internet industry for almost 17 years. I think even longer now, almost 18 to going ahead to 20 years already. So I've been in that industry, and I'm still kind of having some hook in that industry still, because yeah, I have such a big network there. But I've worked for like tier one international internet service providers, data centers, hosting providers, and all kinds of companies within that industry. But actually, what I realized working for so long in that industry is that it's actually like supply chain, but it's supply chain of data.
Yeah.
And I started my career as a sales rep and grew my way up to a commercial director. And then at some point, I was thinking, yeah, the playing the ladder of roles is nice, but I don't feel any like purpose. So I wanted to do something complete different. I wanted to start my own business. This was like 8 years ago, 8 9 years ago. So I started a business just from scratch. I didn't know what to do. I just thought like let's start with something that I'm good at, which is yeah, offering commercial services. So I started as a freelancer, and then after a year, I found my companion, Fabian Baromeo. He's the CTO of the company Cudit, and then we started Cudit together. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Yeah, some like more relaxed topics. I'm a father of three children. There's a fourth coming in a month or so.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I like reading books in my free time, doing sports. Actually, this morning I went for a run and went to the gym. So
Yeah.
trying to keep up with the good how do you call it, the New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
But
Starting before the new year.
yeah, I don't want it to be a resolution. It needs to be like normal, like
Yeah.
yeah, rhythm,
Yeah, lifestyle.
lifestyle. Indeed, correct, correct.
That's amazing. And it's a good thing you mentioned the books. I'll touch upon that a bit later, but sounds like you've had quite a journey over the last 20 years going from starting as a sales rep, building yourself in a commercial lab to starting a business. Tell us a bit more. How did you come out around COTIT? What do you guys do?
Yeah. So I had one assumption when I started this company, and that was that back then, 8 9 years ago, technology wasn't always used properly. And back then, even working in these like technological companies, you would expect that they would have the best software tools and everything all sorted out because it's a tech company after all. But I found out that most of them still work in Excel sheets or even like very old systems. And I know in these industries it has changed a lot, but I knew that in more traditional industries that it was like still, and it is, we did our research, you would still find like billion-dollar companies that work in Excel, still with like big portion of their business. And I thought, yeah, that could be smarter, and especially looking at where we as a society to move forward to. There's more type of like circular economy, um, doing things more sustainable. I realized that you know many of those companies need to start their digital transformation. So back then that was an assumption, but yeah, you can not always build upon assumptions. So instead of just building our solution, we actually jumped into that industry as being the intermediate. So got it like 8 years ago, 7 years ago was a different company than it is right now. It was more like an intermediate between like logistic services, um, like warehouse services, manufacturing services. Well, like we were like hustling and grinding just to get some deals because I have a commercial background. I knew how to sell, although back then I didn't have all the knowledge and experience. But we would work with companies that have the experience and the knowledge and whatsoever. So we were just being the intermediate, trying to find the deal and then bring. And it was a way for us to get familiar with the industry and to actually see where the gaps are in being able to innovate, finding the solutions that would be add value to them. So I've been to manufacturers all around the world, in China, in Pakistan, in Turkey, and whatsoever. We've been to actual big warehouses, and we have literally seen how they would even do like communication through WhatsApp, and have all of their data in Excel sheets, and not like sorted what you would think in an Excel sheet, but like multiple Excel sheets. And when they need to find some information, then they need to pop up all the different
Yeah.
Excel, and then it was really inefficient. And that was for us a cue to say, okay, we need to start building solutions around this. So we did that for 7 years, and actually last 2 years we kind of felt, okay, we invested a lot of money into it. We kind of like had a good portion of a solution, and then we said, okay, let's go to the market. So yeah, although we exist for almost 8 years now, the actual product that we've built only exists now for 2 years.
Okay. That's really interesting. And why supply chain?
Well, supply chain, because it's so complex. Sometimes I ask that question myself as well. Why did I go into such a complex world? But in the end, it's also very exciting. It's so complex, and at the same time, you feel there's so much work to solve there. There's so much issues, and this is a thing. Maybe it's in my personality, and also of my co-founder, that we like to look for the issues in the world and trying
Yeah.
to solve these things. And I feel that we feel that supply chain has so many issues going on, and there's so much to solve. So it's like a never-ending world of, yeah, building stuff and finding
Yeah.
solutions for the issues that are there.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I used to sell the supply chain product for Gartner, so there would always be issues. And like you mentioned, I'm not surprised. I'll speak with billion-dollar companies as well. And their technology is super backwards. I think in our last conversation, I mentioned a huge multi-billion-dollar company I was speaking with. Their computers and systems in the manufacturing side, the screens are still green and white.
Yeah,
So you
it's
can
crazy.
imagine how old the tech is from there, from the 80s, 90s, and still haven't adapted. So I'm not surprised they're still using Excel sheets and they're ready to do that digital transformation.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it's so lacking so much yeah, efficiency. You would find workers that go on WhatsApp, make a group WhatsApp, and then discuss all their business over there.
Yeah,
And obviously that's not so safe in terms of what's happening with the data. And on the other side, it's also not so efficient.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely, I can completely imagine that. And probably one of the key topics that's probably on top of mind now that you're seeing is supply chain visibility, right?
Yes, correct, correct, correct.
How are you guys tackling that? What trends are you seeing around it?
Yeah. So let me first explain like what we have encountered and how we thought we could solve this issue and how we are
Yeah,
solving it for other companies. So working for a little bit more than 5 years in the supply chain industry as a research and development phase while being active in that industry, we all that time we started building solutions where we felt that this could help these companies to become more efficient. Think about, we were building like mini ERP solutions, that they end up like being a big ERP solution, but also warehouse systems, um, like automation tools, like workflow tools, and that kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it helps that my companion has worked at a very young age within the supply chain. He did one of the first automation for a warehouse company. Like this was like 15, 16 years ago, and it was like back then it was like pretty neat. It was pretty
Yeah.
like very very innovative, and it helped that he had that experience. So for us it was really quick in finding the solution. It was not trying to discover where we could find it. It was like, okay, that is the issue, we can solve it. So we would every time we would build tools upon tools upon tools. And then after 5 years of building, we looked back and was like, okay, wow, we invested a lot of money because on we did this on the side.
Yeah.
uh, so we invested all from our own pockets that we gained from the revenue that we were gaining from, yeah, just dealing around in as an intermediate. So we end up like building what we call a modular supply chain visibility platform. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
for us it was a logical way to build it in this way, because we would always find companies that either have no tools at all, or they would have certain tools but not very complete in where they want to head towards. So we immediately saw that the only way to move forward was in a modular way, because not every supply chain is the same as every supply chain company is the same. So we would see, okay, we cannot build a solution like a one size fits all. And if you go into the market, you will always see there's a supply chain solution, a software, ERP, or whatsoever, warehouse management tool. And these are all like um, one size fits all, uh, um, how do you call it? A one size fits all, like
Approach.
approach. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And we thought, and you would always see that these companies would have a system, but then they would use a part of it in their system, and then another part they would go back to their Excel and whatsoever. So we thought
Yeah.
this must be built smarter. So what we've built is what we call modular supply chain visibility platform. Basically, that is a platform with all all sorts of software modules, which represent ERP functionalities, warehouse management functionalities, transport management functionalities, um, like even like order management, even your CRM. So it's a
Yeah.
very big suite of modules. We have over 40 plus modules that we can plug on and plug off and integrate with any system. So therefore, you give the flexibility to those companies to start go through their digital transformation, because a lot of these companies are also, yeah, they're obviously also look at the news and see the new technologies coming up, and they're all like, oh, now they see blockchain, oh, we have to go onto the blockchain. What purpose or in what way, they didn't figure out. And then nowadays it's like, oh, it's AI, we all have to jump on AI, and we need AI because it makes our life better. But the matter of fact is, the reality shows that a lot of these companies are not ready for blockchain, are not ready for AI, because they didn't even sort it out all of their data. They didn't even sort it out all of their systems. So we help these companies to start sorting the systems, or when they don't have any systems, start using systems to yeah, to become more efficient and to have more clarity of what's going on in the operation.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes complete sense. And what have you seen as the biggest trend in that direction? So, what's the number one thing you're seeing that these companies are looking to go towards, or you're solving?
Yeah. So what we see, especially in Europe, there's the government of in Europe has decided on the European Green Deal in like 2019, I think so.
Yeah.
And with this European Green Deal comes up with a lot of new directives and regulations, and things such as waste framework directives. What Since 2024 is also the CSRD, corporate sustainability reporting directives, and in the next few years you will have like in this industrial design directives. You have all of these directives that pushes us towards the circular economy. They want us to have data about what materials are we using, what was the journey of getting to that product, and is that product eventually has the components to recycle it or to reuse it or whatsoever, or can we decompose it into new materials so we don't waste the resources that we
Yeah.
currently are doing. The trend that we are seeing is that, okay, so companies are now starting to figure out that they need to do something, but a lot of these companies don't actually know where to start, and which is logical because they throw a lot of new terminology at us, like digital product passport, battery passport. You have to do this and you have to, but where to start for example, digital product passport. What if I don't even know where the ingredients of my product come from? How will I build this digital product passport? So we see these trends that the trend that we are seeing is that now these companies starting to understand that things need to happen, and then starting to research of that they need to do something, and they figuring out what that is that they need to do. But again, there's there's no one starting point. There's always a different starting point. So we see that is the case, which is good for us because 2 years ago, this is even not so long ago. 2 years ago, when we went into the market, we would think, okay, we're going to conquer the world with this. A lot of these companies were not even aware that these regulations were coming up. They were like, digital product passport, why should I work on this? We don't have time for this. And but what is good is that now we actually see companies being aware. That's the trend that we're seeing, which is very nice, actually.
Yeah, and definitely makes business development a lot easier when companies are problem aware instead of you having to educate them and say, hey, in 2 years, this is going to be a massive problem for you. So I can imagine the
Yes.
surge for 2025, your work must be going up, right?
Yeah, yeah. That is what we're expecting, and we're seeing that already. Actually, that larger corporates starting to explore in solutions that will push them in that direction that is expected from
Yeah,
them.
yeah. And you guys also provide insights to these companies. Similar, I know you compete slightly with Gartner, for example. How do you go about that with the company?
So as I mentioned, so the entire solution is built modularly. That means the insights of what you can see in the data is also modularly configurable.
Hmm.
That means each company decides for themselves which insights is important for them, which analytics they need to measure and whatsoever, and they can build it up themselves or ask us to help them build it up for them. It's like basically it's like
Yeah,
widget approach. It's like when you use your iPhone, you want to see your steps. You can make your widget and put it in your
yeah,
in your front screen. It's the same approach. So they can collect or they can collect the information that they want to collect and then show it as they want to have it shown.
yeah. No, definitely. That's really interesting. So everything is tailor-made to every company.
Yes, it's tailor made, but currently we build it in a way that it's like configurable by themselves.
Uh,
So what is good to understand? So what we have seen working in this with this new solution for the last 2 years is that actually we found an issue with our solution as well. What is that issue? That is that okay, now companies starting to see they need to do something, and some of them are now actually putting the work into it and yeah, expanding their software suite and their
yeah,
capabilities of getting the insights that they need. But what they also see is that once they start using these solutions, is that, oh wait, we haven't thought about this. Now we actually need another solution that integrates with what we have right now. So in our current solution, we see that okay, although the entire solution is configurable, at the moment it needs to be configured by us. And
Okay.
configuration time span can take like 4 to 6 months. If it's a very big project, can even take a year. So we saw, okay, this is not so scalable for us, because
Yeah.
although we would find companies that would spend a lot in building out their solution, we cannot do a lot of companies doing the same, trying to solve their problems. So what we now figured out is like, if we can make it tailor the entire solution in a way that actually with the com with the with having AI in place, we can make sure that the solution can be auto configurable.
Yeah.
Like, you put a prompt like, I need this solution and this need to communicate with this system, and this data needs to be sorted in this way, and then I need this analytics, blah 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 blah. Push enter, and then it start automatically build the configuration that is needed. So we're currently in that state. So this is a new product that we're building, which is what we call super module. And this super module allows companies to start configure the entire solution based on their requirements and their current situation and whatsoever, and then do it by themselves. So we're currently building this new product, and that would need to ensure that the time span of adding solutions upon the solutions are faster.
Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting. And you answered my follow-up question that I had was how do you scale this if it's very customizable? So that's perfect that you answered that.
Oh, great.
And then,
I could read your mind.
yeah, exactly. It's perfect. I don't even have to sit here and ask questions. You can just answer everything. So regarding this, it sounds quite innovative, right? You guys are very customizable. It's a problem right now that businesses need to solve. How are you going about business development at the moment, especially when you're competing with larger organizations?
Yeah, that's a very good question. That is something that has been like bugging my mind for a long time, especially because we tried business development firstly ourselves, going into the market, finding the companies that have certain issues and trying to offer them the solution that we're offering.
Hmm.
But we saw that the lead time of getting a customer in is already taking us around 6 months. And then we need another 6 months to really implement the solution. So then we're already 1 year with one customer. So that's not very scalable. So later on, we thought, but actually, what we also realized is that when we go direct to the actual company that needs the solution, which are most of the time like manufacturers, big warehouse companies, logistic companies, larger brand that have multiple elements of their supply chain in their own, in their own control, is that they would always require some form of consultancy, because they would come to us and say, hey, we are now using the solution, but we think we need this as well, and let's focus on this. So we would do a lot of customization and doing consultancy on top of it. And we thought, but wait a minute, we're not consultants. First of all, we're system builders, and this takes us this makes us a very slow in scaling.
Yeah,
So in terms of business development, and this is actually pretty new, is since this year, we have a very different approach. So instead of going to the end client that needs the solution, we work with experts, supply chain experts, which are supply chain consultants, consultancy firms that have the experience to give advice on how they actually need to structure their business, their operation, and they have insights in the latest trends, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
And that, we what we now do is we approach these consultants and say, hey, listen, we have a system, and this system, we take the position as a technology partner. And as a technology partner, we can do two things: or either we do the implementation, or we use a third party to do the implementation, or if you're a larger firm, you can do the implementation yourself. That means you get higher revenues, because now you have additional work by offering the system. And then we also build in like a revenue sharing model. So it gives
yeah,
them also some scalability in their business, because a lot of these supply chain consultants, they go into a project, and when the project is over, they they need
Need
to
to
look for
find
another
another
one.
one.
Yeah. So it's not also it's not so very scalable. But we said, okay, for because you have been implementing the solution for the entire lifetime of the customer using that solution, you get a portion of their monthly cost, making your business also scalable. So that's how we approach the business development. But
Yeah,
another thing what we have been thinking of is that obviously a lot of these, like at some point these consultancy firms, um, they have a range of their current network.
yeah,
When that is all approached, they need new leads, obviously. So we also thought about, okay, but if they're done in within their network, which can in some cases can be very fast, because if you only work with 5 companies, for example,
yeah,
you have only five companies to approach. So you would be needing to you would leads need to be feeded to you.
yeah,
So currently we're also exploring to partner up with business development companies, where we say, okay, hey, business development companies, can you generate the leads for our partners, so these partners
yeah,
can go into the talk with the actual lead to figure out the solution.
yeah. That's really interesting. So you've built for an ecosystem of people that
Yes.
already sell into your end clients,
Yes.
who then can also do the implementation, and then everyone wins from that. So there's
Exactly.
consistent selling to that same client.
Yeah, and in a way, it mirrors the actual supply chain dynamic,
Yeah,
because the entire supply chain dynamic is built upon, like, we're helping each other to become better, and we earn
yeah,
something from
yeah. No, that's definitely, and it's easy to explain because they're in supply chains, so you can use that exact
it.
analogy.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
really great. And then obviously there's multiple ways of doing business development, right?
Yeah,
So that's one approach. There's your old approach where it was taking up to a year to do everything. Are you still looking to use the old approach that you're doing in conjunction with the new approach, or are you going more into this new approach, partnering with the experts, getting business that way?
yeah. So what we're seeing now is, since we implemented this new approach is working much better for us. We see we partner up with a lot of consultants very easily. We have consultants lined up to work with us,
Yeah,
but for ourselves, we said, okay, we don't want to like onboard 100 in the beginning directly, simply because we have this for the 2025, and this is like a teaser for 2025. We said to ourselves, okay, we go quality over quantity, and we want active partners. So that means we have to focus on making the relation with the partners most efficient,
yeah,
so they can actually close deals with their end clients.
yeah, yeah. So the sales coaching, everything like that
Yes.
goes into that,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
good because you're ex-commercial director, so that's always good.
That's always
Okay.
good. Yeah. And then, as I said, we are now exploring the possibility to work with business development companies, so they can partner up with them, as you said,
Yeah.
rightfully said, an ecosystem.
Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously, you mentioned the quality aspect. In my mind, when I think of partnering with these experts, I'll think more of a boutique consultancy where they might have more clients.
Yeah.
You would onboard them, or do you
Yes.
not mind having an individual consultant where it's like on a project by project, they finish a project, then they have to find another one? Are you going to be prioritizing more of these boutique that have a bigger book of business essentially?
Well, actually, we are we currently, most of our partners are the smaller firms that have like or a one person company, or
Yeah,
2 3 person. And the reason why is, a lot of these uh, entrepreneurs, uh, they have a um, ambition to grow to a boutique.
yeah,
So with our solution, we allow them to grow into a boutique, because it's a very scalable approach. They can use us as a technology partner at first, and once they grow their business, they can actually hire other people, and from these other people, they can do the implementation themselves, and therefore drive up their revenues, etc., etc. We would also approach boutiques, because we need some, diversity in
yeah,
type of partners that we work with. But what we are seeing, these especially the smaller consultancy, are very interested, because yeah, we see that there's always a ambition to do more, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, they're more driven into winning
Yes.
projects because they need to
Yes.
build the brand themselves, etc.
And what we also see is when we work with the boutique, it works better for us to work currently with the smaller boutiques, because when we talking with larger boutiques, you know, they have a process, and that process has a process, so
Yeah.
it takes longer for them to really start onboarding a new partner.
Yeah. Plus with them, they don't need you as much, so they don't try as much with you. Whereas when
Yes.
there's that more that dependency, you both benefit.
Yes. Yes. That and actually, they don't know yet that they need us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more of that. It's more of the
Yes.
ignorance tax that
Yes.
they pay.
Yes. Once they're starting to see that the smaller firms are competing with the larger ones, then they're starting to wake up and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
what's going on? Why is this small firm being able to help this large customer?"
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a general trend I've seen over the last years where a lot of people are transitioning from the big four, from the larger ones to more boutiques because it's more specialized, more hands-on,
Yes.
more
Yes.
personable approach then. You're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
a long client on my client list will get to you and that's it.
Exactly. And what we also see is also because they move way faster than the larger corporates,
Yeah,
consultancy
yeah.
firms.
Because there's less decision making in them
Less
and
decision making, you know, where we have heard about projects that took them to implement, it took them 2 to 3 years. Well, if
yeah,
you would work with a smaller firm, it could be done within months.
yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. They definitely stretch out the time frame so they can get paid more
Yeah, yeah,
partly.
exactly.
So cool. That makes sense. And then obviously you've been building a business for close to 7 years, 5 years. What's been the challenges of growth? What's been like one common thing that you've keep on having to improve and develop over these last couple of years?
So what I've realized being active now for almost 8 years is that every time when you think you have it right and you move towards move towards the growth that you're thinking of
Yeah,
and envisioning, you come to a wall.
yeah,
And then you hit the wall, and then you figure out that you need to do something else to go a little bit further. And
yeah,
that journey, you know, in the beginning it was like, oh man, you know, does this ever stop? But you know, now being more than 7 years active, I realize that this is what it is. You know,
yeah,
you have to be adaptable to the wall and figure out that this wall is meant for you to grow over it so that you can scale further. And that is one thing that I realized is that, you know, and I think this is for all entrepreneurs, because once you come in, you're like enthusiastic and you're like, I'm gonna
yeah,
conquer the world and I'm gonna do it all. But then you hit the first wall, and then you're like, ah, this is a small wall, and you figure it out, and then you need another one, and then another one. After 4 years of hitting walls, you're like, what's this? And what
yeah,
I think, but this is my own philosophy, is that is one of the reasons that, like, a lot of startups fail within the first 5 years,
yeah,
because of, you know, their uh, the how do you say it, their not adaptability, but their the grit to, like, push forward. And also a lot of these companies that, what I see, you know, you have startups, they get funded a lot of money, and then, you know, and then they hit a wall, but that wall is like a huge wall because they didn't scale organically.
yeah,
It makes it very easy to solve it, and then you have other stakeholders, investors, that say, ah, yeah, let's pull out
yeah,
the plug and then stop the entire business. But for us, because we grew organically, it enabled us to, although this wall was there, it wasn't a wall that, like, would you know, kill the business.
yeah. Yeah, you're able to tackle it and push through it
Yes.
so you can get to the
Yes.
next wall and
Yes.
continuously do that.
Yes, very, and I think that's the benefit of starting off, like, organically, like bootstrapping the company, and, you know, you get some experience that you wouldn't be able to like um, to tackle upfront.
Yeah,
You wouldn't know that they were. You wouldn't know that they would coming at you.
Yeah, yeah, it all comes at once, and then it's just
Yes,
like, how do I
yes,
do this? I lost my main client. What do I do now?
yes,
But
exactly. You need to experience these things.
yeah,
That makes you a better entrepreneur, but also that makes your business healthier to experience these things.
yeah, because then the next time you know how to deal with it, etc. I've seen a
Yes,
lot of businesses where they rely on a one cash cow client, they lose it, and then they don't know what to do,
yes, exactly.
especially post-COVID now.
Yes, exactly. And we had that as well. Like, so, and moving a little bit back into the story of
Yeah,
how we grew our company, like at four, year four, going towards five, we had a very big customer, and that customer, yeah, gained a lot of revenue. But at some point, we lost that customer, and we were like almost had no revenue. But
yeah,
because we had a pretty small team, uh, it was also an opportunity for us. It was an opportunity to focus on this new product, because if we
yeah,
would end up working with this customer still today, we wouldn't be able to focus on this product that we're currently focusing on.
yeah,
So there's a benefit in it, or there's a positive side on a negative
yeah.
occurrence.
Yeah, so it was a blessing in disguise.
It was a blessing in disguise, and at the moment it felt like really really heavy. I needed to let go some of the old colleagues, but because it went so organically and healthy, we had a very healthy culture.
Hmm.
People understood the situation, and they actually left by themselves because they knew, like, okay, this is at least what I could do to at
Yeah,
least let the company survive and focus on its mission.
yeah. No, that's really good of them. There's a lot of employees. They'll just stay, be protected by the European laws till the
Yes.
very end, and then in spite to leave, so the company
Exactly.
fell. So that's really good that you did that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and then transition. I know you mentioned you love reading books. What types of books as a founder do you read? Is it more business related? Do you actually like to switch your brain off and go into more something else? What do you go about reading?
Well, I read. It's like very diverse, but all of them are like in a way a self-development or entrepreneurial development books, right?
Yeah.
So it can be from like one book that I'm reading now is Deal Maker. Uh,
Um,
you know that one?
yeah, I've heard this on my list.
Guy, I forgot his last name, but he was like a private equity guy, and then he talks about the deals that he's been doing and stuff. So that is pretty exciting to read. So some of them are like more in depth, going into the finance in building the business. Another book that I read is, for example, Traction, to understand how you build your team and whatsoever. But what I find also very interesting, I try to be like very in tune with myself, because I feel that sometimes business can be very mentally disturbing.
Yeah.
uh, you would take a lot of hay on your fork that would has the potential to break you down, and to be able to keep it sane. I try to practice also like meditation, doing a lot of sports, developing my spiritual self as well. So I like reading these books as well. One of the last two books that I read is like The Map of Consciousness, and there was another one, The Surrender Experiment. It's kind of spiritual, but then also a little bit of business,
Yeah.
motivational. So I try to like diversify the approach, from spiritual to very like business focus, and this can be like finance or build team building or whatsoever, until very like more in productive type of books, productivity books and whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good, healthy choice in regards to the spirituality, where it does teach business lessons as well.
Yeah.
So it's a full circle again.
Yes,
I also
yes.
it does de-stress you from just okay, strategy, strategy, strategy of business
Yes,
growth.
exactly, exactly. Because what I also had, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs have had this experience, especially if they've been doing this for a long period. I think all of them had a moment of like breakdown, being depressed, and all of them.
Yeah,
And being like going through some the yeah depression myself, not one time but multiple times, I realized, okay, I need that this is a trigger. My mind is telling me something, and I need to act on it. I need to act on it before it actually happens, and I need to
yeah,
be aware that it can happen.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a healthy way of viewing it. I heard, I forgot who said it, but they were like, depression is actually an emotional trait, just like sadness, etc. It's your body telling you need to change something,
Yes,
and then you
yes,
go and actually change, and that's how you deal with it.
yes, yes, yes.
I think that's a healthy way of approaching it as opposed to doing nothing, right? You just stay depressed, and that's when you go
Yes,
down the
yes.
rabbit hole.
Or always thinking about strategy, strategy, strategy. And the thing about strategy is strategy will always go different than you strategize.
It's true. You go one path and then you go down the other.
Yes, yeah, you have to be in some ways like agile, very agile in your
Yeah.
you approach it.
Yeah, I don't think the strict approach is the best. I think it's just
No.
start it and then you'll see what's working and what's not.
Yeah, yeah. I'm blessed to be like very laid back type of person.
Yeah,
So although I feel very stressed and like things can go way above my head, I come across like he's doing fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's also it has its downsides because people would think, oh, he's fine, but in my heart and mind, I'm like fully stressed out.
I can imagine. I'm the same. Everyone think, "Oh, Alex, you're so chilled. What's wrong? Like, how can you be stressed?" I'm just like, listen, you don't know internally how I am right now.
So when I'm in my bed crying.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Well, we've been speaking for quite a while. I'm sure the audience has got a lot of information from this. Just to round things off, what's one piece of advice for any other CEO founder growing their business that you want to leave them with?
I think it has a lot to do with the last topic that we just discussed, is being like mentally resilient, finding ways in yourself to be like calm, assertive, be like prepared for the unexpected, all of these things, and a lot of these quotes are very cliche, but they're most of them are just true.
Yeah,
I feel just and it's funny because a lot of the although would see the quote and you would read it and you're like, oh yeah, that's a nice quote, but you don't understand it. Once you hit that experience, then you understand
yeah,
on a deeper level what it actually saying. So yeah, for a lot of the entrepreneurs, my advice would be just be open to what life is offering you, what is coming at you, and go with that flow. Because I
yeah,
think in a way, life is moving in a way that it's trying to teach you something, and yeah, be open minded to see the lesson in what it wants to teach you.
yeah. Great. I think that's a perfect last thought to end the podcast on. So, thank you for being our guest on today's show, Anthony. Where can our viewers find you if they want to come in contact with you?
So they can come to my LinkedIn. That's Siams LinkedIn and then slash Siams ACM, sorry. And then I also have Instagram. That's Anto Siams, and that's the same for my Twitter account and for yeah, that's it. That's the three accounts that I use.
Amazing. Hopefully they can find you on one of those. I'll leave it
All with
all
the
in the
same
link
name,
in the
Anto Siams.
description. Perfect. I will leave it all in the link in the description so people can come in to contact you.
Perfect.
Hopefully we can record a part two in the next couple of months.
Will be great.
And see you guys on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Alex.